what is good, you guys? I am Jaideep and welcome back to the channel. So this is yet another video in the Playwright series. This is the third one. If you have missed the first two, they are available on my channel. So this is the first one, Playwright Python automation and how you can run the tests on a cloud grid provider such as Lambda Test. So shout out to the people at Lambda Test for providing us a platform to be able to run or leverage the cloud infrastructure. A really handy website, and if you're looking for a cloud grid provider to run your test cases, do give them a check. The link is available in the description. And the second video is again same, how to run end-to-end test cases using Playwright and Docker. Dockerize the test cases which you write so that it can save the setup save you the setup time, and then how you can run them on the cloud grid again. Yeah, so with that being said, let's get started with today's video about locators in Playwright. So what are locators? Now, before moving on to locators, let us understand the goal of web automation testing. Why does web automation testing exist? It exists to make sure that the web page is rendering correctly, or whatever we had planned to display is being displayed correctly. So consider this Playwright website. Now it has the left hand pane which has a few titles or a few headings. It has the right hand pane. It has the top nav bar. It has some icons. I think this is for the dark mode, which looks okay, I think. Yeah. And then not to deviate from the topic. So if you want to make sure that all these elements are present, so you're a tester from the Playwright team and you are assigned with a task to make sure that this Playwright for Python is present, or this docs is present, or this locators is present, and it's say an h2 or h3 tag, that is basically this, it shows up in bold. How can you do that? Now to do that, you can actually do visual inspection, that is you can load the website and then check everything. One way to do it, nothing wrong, and that is one possible way. But there are better ways of doing it, and that is using automation. So when you're using automation, what you simply need to do is you need to find ways in which your code can locate these elements which are testing. So consider you want to test if the locators title is present on the web page, on this particular web page, Python docs locators. What you can do is you can find a way to locate this element, and then using one of the assertion or one of the checks, you can define, or you can determine, not define, but determine whether this is present or not. So why automation? Obviously you cannot always go and check the website. Humans are prone to errors, but code is less prone to errors. Obviously you can write buggy code, but good code is less prone to errors, and you can run it as many times without any manual intervention. So that is a bit about locators. In layman's terms, they provide a way to interact with this DOM and locate elements, or find particular elements on any web page. Now consider that you're on a different page. Say you're on the YouTube UI page. You're a tester from the YouTube, you're a tester for YouTube. Then if you're on the channels and videos page, you're tasked with, say, determining if the customize channel button is present or not, or manage videos is present or not, or this home is present or not. So you can locate these elements using Playwright locators and then make sure if they are present or not. So say if home should be present, obviously then the task is that you should find this home button and then make sure it's visible. Similarly, there is no button called as contact, so you can make sure that you try to locate the contact element. If it's not there, then not be visible. Or if there are any hidden elements, then you can make sure that the hidden elements are not visible. So stuff like that. But yeah, locators present a way to find elements on the DOM or on the web page. That is about Playwright locators. And now let us move on to various locators which Playwright offers. Playwright provides 7 recommended built-in locators. Now there are 2 ways in which you can use locators. Firstly, by using the recommended ones, or secondly, you can create your own locator using the page.locator method. Now if I just go back, so what Playwright suggests is for most use cases, for most of our use cases, the built-in locators should suffice. Yeah, or they should cover almost all the wide range of scenarios which you might encounter in the web automation testing. But in spite of that, if you feel the need sometimes, because the real world obviously is not perfect, and you might sometimes run into a scenario where you need to obviously create your own custom locators. So in such a scenario, what you can do is you can use the page.locator method, and then using the XPath or the CSS, you can create your own locators as well. Although, so if it actually clearly says if you absolutely must use CSS or XPath locators, you can use the page.locator to create a locator that takes the selector. So selector is basically the attribute by which you would find this element. So that is a selector. Recommended built-in locators should suffice for most of the scenarios. There would be very less chances that you need to actually go and locate using say CSS or XPath. So that is a bit about recommended versus your custom locators which work with CSS or XPath. So throughout this video tutorial, we're going to reference this blog which I wrote for Lambda test, how to find elements using Playwright locators. So this is a really handy guide, and if whatever I talk about, I've written in this blog. So do check it out. Even if I miss something out, it is written on this blog, and the corresponding code base is present on my GitHub profile. So if you go to my GitHub profile and you look up for locators, I'll leave a link obviously to this in the description, but you can find the entire code base, all the setup which I did the GitHub repository. So don't worry about that. So what is the most convenient way to locate elements? And the answer is using the Playwright inspector or the code generator tool. So suppose you are a tester who is tasked with testing if the home page has a search button or not, and if the search button is visible. So that is your task. What you can simply do is you can take this URL, and the code setup is pretty simple. If you go to the Docker video, you can just copy paste it, or you can go to the GitHub repository, clone it, and the code setup is pretty simple. And I'm using a virtual environment called as Docker Playwright. If you're not sure how to create virtual environments, do check out a video. So if you go scroll a little down, and this Anaconda and Miniconda tutorial, do watch this, and this is what I've used to create Docker Playwright. So yeah, setting up virtual environments using Anaconda or using Miniconda as your package and environment manager. So do check out that video. Link is available in the I button and the description as well. But yeah, coming back, so what is your task? If you have to log into this website, and you have to make sure that the search button is present on the home page and it is visible. What is the easiest way to do it? Obviously, you can write a lot of code manually, just type it, but Playwright has an easier way, and that is using the Playwright inspector or the code generator tool. And you simply have to do Playwright Codegen. Yeah, let me maximize this a bit so it's visible. Playwright Codegen space. Let me close this one and give it the URL under test. Once you give it the URL under test, it will open a Chromium browser, and it will open up this handy tool called as Playwright Inspector. And what the Playwright Inspector does is it records. So it's live recording right now. So whatever actions you perform on this, for some reason it's open up a little small, but I think that's okay. Usually it opens up properly. Yeah, just resizing this a little bit so that it's better visible. Yeah. So once you fire up the Playwright Codegen, this will open up the Chromium browser and the inspector, and the inspector is live recording all your actions. So we navigated to the e-commerce page, right? That is so far our action, and that is also your task. That is, you have to go to this page and then you have to find the search button. So you can choose a preferred library, whether you want to write the test cases in Python, whether you want to write it in Java, Node.js, .NET. You're free to choose that. But you're going to choose Python, and you can either choose library or you can choose PyTest. And then you want to make sure that the search button is visible or not. So you can just click search button. And if you see, it has located the search button and the action was click. Now I can copy this and then paste it. Yeah. So test, and I'm going to give it a proper name. I think sync, expect, and playwright are present here, so don't need that. because we've already done that. And then page, so that is what we need. And then expect, yeah, I'll give this search button locator, and then expect search button locator dot to be underscore visible. So the only code which we wrote was this expect line, that is the search button to be visible. The other two lines were given to us by the code generator tool. If I actually if I do one more thing just to show you that instead of having copying the only test case, if I just do library, then it will give me a more verbose code. So whatever actions we perform, we can actually record. So it's already recorded that, and they can be entirely replayed. So if I just copy this, actually I can click here, and if I do say not here, but I want to do it outside. So Codegen underscore demo.py, I think this is a good name, and I paste everything here, and now I'll stop the playwright. So this is automatically stopped. Now if I run this, and now if we choose to run this, so we've copied the code entirely, and if we choose to run this, and let me pull up the browser. So whatever actions which we did, this, and we actually should have added some say wait time, page dot wait for timeout 1 second. And now if I run this again, and if you see, it's loading up the page, and then we clicked on the search button, and yeah, so that was the entire replay. So that is one thing. Obviously we don't want to just replay this. Our goal as a tester is to make sure that the search button is visible. So this is okay for us, but our target is this one, that is expect the search button to be visible, that is the element or the located by this. Now if I actually print this, actually let me go back to the let me open the other one. Yeah, and here if I say search, not click, but search underscore btn underscore locator is equal to, and if I print this and run this code again, so it's opening the other browser, but if you see, it's located the actual element. So it's gone to this website, and then using this rule button and name is equal to search. So this is what is contained in this search. Obviously I spelled search wrong, but this is what this is done. So it's located the element and it's stored the locator. So if I just do type of this and probably run it one more time, so if you see, it's a playwright locator. So it's generated an object of the type playwright locator, and that is what is present here. So let me just this, and let me do this. Actually, we don't even need this anymore. We just need this. So yeah, the objective was to demo the code generator tool. The code generator gave us two pieces of code. If you don't want to run test cases, if you just want to run the simulation of your actions, you can use this. That is, let me go back here. So depending on whether you want to run the simulation as it is, or whether you want to just simply write the test cases, yeah, you can choose the appropriate one. You can also choose the async library, and it will give you the async code as well. But yeah, now our goal as a tester was to make sure if let me close this first, and CLS. Our goal as a tester was to make sure that this search button is present, and that's what we have done. We have located the search button using obviously the Codegen tool, and now if I do test-v, hopefully it should locate. So if you see, it's collected one item, test playwright located, test example, should have given it a better name, and it's running on Chromium. Running tests, I think here. Yeah, I think here. Yeah, this one. So running on multiple browsers, so you have to give multiple browsers. So I think it was not browsers, but it was browsers. So if I just do pytest -v and -v browser WebKit browser Firefox. I think we have not installed the browsers as well because I was obviously use the cloud grid infrastructure for this. So what you can do is, as mentioned here, where is the browsers one? So what you can do is playwright install. Actually, here playwright install. Let me run this command. Let me do cls over here and do playwright install. So it will download all the browsers. So this is what it will do. I've not done this. I think for the previous tutorial, I'm using the same virtual environment as I mentioned, and previously we ran everything on the cloud grid infrastructure. That's why we didn't have Firefox and WebKit. If you see, it's installed only two. And now if I run the same command again, it should run without any issues. So that was the issue there, that the WebKit and the Firefox browsers are not present. Chrome comes in bundled, or the Chromium comes in bundled, but WebKit and Firefox you have to download manually. So that is the issue. So you see, the test cases have run after installing the browsers correctly. So that is about the code generator tool, a very handy tool if you want to eliminate all the boilerplate code. Obviously you can write the whole code base entirely by hand, but there's a better choice which is available. All right, so moving on to the last part of this tutorial, checking out the different types of locators. So now you see there are 7 types of locators, and already in our demo we have seen the get by role. Now similar to the get by role, we have get by text, get by label, get by placeholder, get by alt text, get by title, and get by test ID. Now I'm not going to demo each and every one of here, but there are specific use cases. So as I mentioned, that is why a playwright are so confident, because they've given so many they've covered so many different scenarios that these built-in locators would be able to cover most of them. So if you go to the tutorial which I wrote and recommended playwright locators, so on the recommended playwright locator section, you will see so you'll see different use cases, how to locate elements by the role in Playwright. So obviously we already seen this in our code base. We are already locating by the role. So there are different types of role available, not only button. So you see, if I just minimize this a bit, you can the role can be an alert box, it can be an image, it can be a link, and there are various different ARIA roles which you can locate the elements by. So if the element has an ARIA role, you can use the get by role locator. So get by text. So where would you use get by text? Wherever you have like span, or it actually says. So here I think. So if you have a div, span, or a paragraph like text, yeah, that is where you'd use the get by text locator. So if you see here, if I just click viewed and do inspect, so this has a span and this has a viewed text. So locating elements like this. So if your test case was to find elements which are find an element, say that this product page contains this view count, then what you can do is you can write the test case for this. So what I can do is you can use the get by role, get by text locator. If I just copy this as it is, or actually a better way to do this is here, test playwright locators, and this one. So text should be visible, that is get by text, brand, view, reward points, and availability. If you see, if I close this, brand, view, and availability, and there is brand, viewed, reward points. So there's something called as reward points as well. Let's see where the reward points are. Don't see it here, but let's see if I go here, the URL which I used, and if I'm able to find it. Yeah, reward points are here, so it's here clearly. So on the previous one, the reward point was missing, so it's a good scenario. So if you see, there's some discrepancy on the website itself. So the test case which you can write is get by text brand, get by text viewed. So if I just right click and inspect, You see it's a span and it has a text brand and this. So you can locate these elements and then to be visible. And availability text locator. So what is availability? Availability is present here and to not. So you can only, not only can you test for to be visible, you can write the negative not to be visible as well. And what the exact is equal to true does? Suppose the brand is present on multiple times, that this brand, the word brand is present on multiple times. So if I search for this word, it's present only once, but it could be present multiple times. So what we have done is we've used this colon as well. If you see, we've used this colon as well, and we've done exact is equal to true. So we're looking for this exact text. We are not looking for the approximate match of a brand, the word brand or the text brand. We are looking for the exact match. So the locator, the get by text, also takes in the exact keyword as well. It takes in a few other keywords as well. You can look up the API for reference. Now, if I run this test case, pytest-v and test playwright locators, let me see dir, okay, cd tests. Let me actually do this a bit, and I'm going to zoom in one to pytest-v test playwright locators, and to run a single test product should be visible. So it's collected only that test, and for some reason, okay, so it's asking for a fixture and we're going to go for a simpler one. So instead of using, so we're going to do page and this one, and CLS, and let's try one more time, and it's running on Chromium. Okay, I think there's a lot of things which need to be changed. Yeah, hopefully it should stop complaining, and in the third try it should run. Yeah, if you see, it's run. So that is about get by text. When to use it? When you have like a span, you have a paragraph, or what was the third thing which they mentioned? When you have a div. Similarly, I think the next interesting one is the placeholder. So if you're working with forms, okay, forms will have a placeholder. So if you see my account and this email, and I inspect email, is this visible? Yeah, I think it should be now. So if you see, it has a placeholder email address, and that you can test using the placeholder. So for each and every use case, there's a locator which is available. So that is why again and again I stress upon this fact that the built-in locators should be sufficient. So let's see the placeholder one. This one, I think this is the and if we go here and so making the customary changes, what I'll do is I'll just make it as an instance of a page. So we don't have to change anything. Here we have to do a lot of changes, but instead of using the CloudGrid page pytest fixture which is present here, what we'll do is we'll make this an instance of the page, and then get by placeholder your name and your review. So instead of using the account login form, it's the test case is using something called as the review form. So if I just right click and inspect, this also has a placeholder your name and placeholder your review. So that is what this is testing. So if you have placeholders, basically if you have forms, then you can use the placeholder. And if I run this test case, pytest-v test playwright and only run this test case. So something has gone wrong. Let's see what we did. Okay, I forgot to save. Okay, again it is complaining about fixtures. Why does it want a fixture? I'm not sure if it's a convention. Honestly, I'm not even sure if it's a convention really. So let's name it page, and let me do CLS, and let me run it one more time. Again, I've not forgotten to save, and test review form has customer name field, pytest-v test playwright Okay, now it's running on Chromium. So finally we have got it running, but I think this is the downside of doing demos. So this is working. Yep, placeholders. So when would you use placeholders? Again, if you have forms which have placeholders. Similarly, test ID, I think title is one. So if you have the title attribute, you can use the title if you have the test ID. Now, the test ID is important. The most robust way of writing test cases is using the. So what has happened, if you notice so far, what has happened is we are using the elements which are present on the form. Yeah. But tomorrow, if the placeholder changes, so from your review, it becomes your only review, then this test case is destined to fail, because we have actually checked here and we have also made that exact is equal to true. So this test case is a little bit less robust. How can we make tests robust? You can have a proper testing methodology, and to each and every of your element, you can add a dedicated test ID. So for our demo test website, I think certain aspects of this website, actually, even if you don't take a demo website, if you take YouTube, certain aspects are really important. For example, this customized channel is important, manage videos is important, then when it was uploaded, the view count, title. So these are some really important bits which every video should have. Now if you're a tester who is writing this, then what you can do is you can inspect this, and then you can use any of these. So you can use the text and all, but all of this is subject to change, right? What you can instead do is you can have a test plan where each and every of these elements would have a dedicated test ID. Yeah. So if you see, there's a so this acts like a key value pair. So testing by test IDs is the most resilient way of testing, as even if your text or role or attribute changes, the test will still pass. So that is what they're saying, irrespective. So on the search button, what we did is we use the type, we use the role is equal to button. So here we use the role is equal to button, name is equal to search. Tomorrow, either of this can change. It can become a link, and the search text could change. You're going to have searches or search by, something like this. To make this more resilient, what we can do is you can add a key value pair, which is basically test ID. So this can be anything. So it defaults to data test ID, but you can change it. Yeah, this says playwright.selectors set test ID. So this can be anything. This key can be anything. You just have to make sure whatever you have set, whatever is the key, you can set it. And then you can make sure for this attribute. So if you see get by test ID and directions, so wherever it finds this key, and then based on this value, you can look for this value. This is what the test ID does. This key value pair should exist. This key remains constant. The values can change, and then you can look up by this, and this would make the test case more robust, because this key value is always expected to be present. Anything else can change. This name can change. This button can become a link, but this won't change. And then a test case which is written using this get by test ID becomes more and more robust. It is less prone to errors or less prone to failures. So that is get by test ID. So moving back to the quick guide. So we have seen a few in action, and we have seen the importance of the others. So that is about Playwright locators and the recommended ones. Obviously, again, that if you run into a scenario where this is not sufficient, then you can obviously use page.locator. So far what you have done is page.get by role, page.get by text, get by placeholder, but obviously you can do page.locator, and you can supply the path. How to find this path? It's very simple. You can do right click and copy XPath. It's very simple. So this is how we can find it. So if so for any element, if it doesn't satisfy as per these recommended ones, you can use the XPath. It's very simple. So that is about locators and various types of locators. It's all about Playwright locators. Locators, just to give a whole summary, locators allow you to find elements. If you want to find this lambda test, if you want to find anything, then you have to use locators. So there are built-in locators. There are 7 built-in locators which in Playwright, which should cover most of your test cases depending on what you want to find. But if you still insist on using CSS or XPath, you can use the page.locator method. And the easiest way to find the XPath is just right click on any element, inspect, and on the inspect, right click, copy, and XPath. So this is the easiest way to find the XPath. Also, a quick video about locators in Playwright. If you do find this content useful, do leave your valuable feedback in the comment section. Do subscribe to the channel if you're a new viewer, or if you're seeing this from the browse or the recommendation features, and share this content with your friends as well. So thank you for watching.